All right, we've got an exciting episode today with Rich Redmond. He's in the house. Rich is drummer, actor, speaker, author. The list goes on, brother.
A lot of ers. I'm a drummer. Yeah, it's great to be here, man. This looks great.
Yeah, man.
Very nice.
Fired up. So Rich will be speaking at Impact Effect 24, and we're excited for what's coming with that conference and how we're impacting and helping folks. But as you know, the first question, the only question we really ask is, how do you define the word impact, Rich? And how do you show up in the world and create impact today?
Well, my job is all about impact. I mean, somehow I make a living, with beating plastic and metal and with two pieces of wood. So it's all about impact. And that's kind of like, my God-given gift that I can use as a vehicle for change in the world, to help impact people, kids of all ages, people from 5 to 50 and beyond. And, I tell people all the time, my band is like, Rich, you would have been a great father, man. You're great with the kids. Why didn't you do it? I was like, well, it never happened. But, I have all these students that I've kind of mentored over the years, hundreds now that I keep tabs on. So they're kind of like my kids. It's like, they're getting accepted to these incredible music schools. They're graduating from the schools. They're getting out into the real world with their skill sets that we've kind of like honed, and they're going out and living the life of their dreams in the music business. It's great.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that's impact right there.
Yeah, I just try to be enthusiastic. Who is it? Winston Churchill, I think, said, enthusiasm is defined in life as like going from one failure to the next failure without a lack of enthusiasm, or maybe that's success. I know that Winston was involved in that quote, but that's true, because we have to suffer a lot of failures to get to where we want. But enthusiasm is this weapon that we can wield like a sword, and I do in my life. I know I'm going to run into people that do what I do better. But I'm going to show up. Firm handshake, lots of enthusiasm. First one there, last one to leave. And hopefully, life is a collection of experiences. And so if I can give someone an experience, something we can have this lasting thing together. And then at the end of the day, oh my God, there's a piece of art or something tangible that gets played on the radio, and you're going to hear it in the supermarket and in the elevator. And it's soccer moms have it as their ringtone. It's like, all right, my work is done here. And then someone says, hey, I'll leave the studio recording session at the end of the day. And guys are like, you forgot. Oh yeah, I get paid for this. Sometimes I'm like walking out the door. It was great. See you later. They're like, here, man. I was like, yeah, because I love my job. I'm enthusiastic about my job and what my calling in life, my purpose, and very proud of doing what I do, man.
Yeah. It's electric. Your energy's electric. Your enthusiasm's electric.
Electric. That's the line dance, I think.
Let's go.
The electric slide. I can't remember those dance moves, man. I don't know.
When did you bring us back to like an experience you've had when you realized, wow, I'm doing it. Like I have massive impact. Like, was that early on in your career? Was that after kind of falling into place and where you thought you want to be and how you show up? Like, when did that kind of come across your mind?
Yeah. I think anytime, as a performer and an entertainer, you're in front of like 5 people or 50,000 people, you're impacting people, you're changing people's lives. Because the gift of music, I tell people, wouldn't, it'd be a horrible world if, you're at Barry's boot camp and there's no music to get you through that treadmill workout, or there's a first dance at a wedding. What are you going to dance to? So like music has such a profound impact and importance in people's lives. And as an entertainer, that's something that I could bring to the table to affect people in a positive way and change lives. That's kind of like my mantra in life. My purpose in life is to affect people in a positive way and change their lives. And I do that through pretty much edutainment is what I call it. So it's like I have the heart of a teacher, and I'm a born performer, and
more ers.
Yeah, more ers. So So, I think you're impacting people in the audience. Even something as simple as playing in like a cover band or a corporate party band or a wedding band, where when you see a packed dance floor, you're doing your job.
Yeah.
And when I'm playing out on the road with, say, like a Jason Aldean, and we're going out and doing the summer circuit in the amphitheater, and there's 24,000 people, and it's just like a sea of just sweaty people, and you're like, we couldn't fit one more person in this place. And so I'm changing their lives, and we're working with students, teaching, you're giving them some skill and knowledge and information, sharing your experience. Maybe I could shave 5 years off of their journey, to help get them from point A to point B. So yeah, was that the question? I don't know.
Man, yeah. Well, I think where you're steering here is you've got different lanes and opportunities to create your impact. And
Yeah.
I think when you see a sea of 24,000 people and you're on stage with Jason Aldean and you're cranking those drums and people are getting electric, I mean, that's impact.
That's the cake. You got to have a good drummer. A drummer can make or break a band. You know what I mean? And a good drummer can like lift a band up to heavenly heights, and then a bad drummer can sink a band, right? It's just our name is never on the marquee usually, except for Impact. I get to be, my name is on the marquee for 45 minutes. We're all, the drum chair is all about, it truly does speak to leadership, because we lead from behind the drums, but we also have to follow. It's various information. It's a very interesting position to be in a band, because we have to lead and follow at the same time, and we have to have a lot of like courage and be natural leaders and be very determined and be very resolute, but at the same time be open to taking suggestions and being flexible. That's real life.
Yeah. That's the reality behind the scenes, I think, where it's a lot of these levers being pushed and pulled, and timing and strategy. And I mean, I can only imagine how many people are involved in a production, in a show, and especially when you have 24,000 folks. And
we're playing the same 24 songs, pretty much year after year. We change the set list, we put the current single in and that kind of stuff. So really the job becomes about absolute consistency and execution. It's not like it's we're playing like the Blue Note Tokyo, where it's a jazz club and everybody's listening to every little note and everyone's sipping on their martinis, and it's like, shh. This is about like creating a magical, memorable moment for people. And so for me, it's just about the consistency of being a team player and leading the guys on my stage, like being the most solid person that everybody could just sink into my performance and come fuel up. It's like the guys, when they're running out of fuel, you can tell, because they'll come back and they'll get charged up with the drums and they'll go back out to the edge of the stage. So it's a big responsibility. We're like it's kind of like our company. We're like the CEO. Like, it's not our company, but it's like I'm the CEO. Like, I have like an extreme performance that I have to give every night, and it doesn't matter if I'm jet lagged or if I've had too much Monster Energy, or if I ate the wrong thing or I'm not feeling well. It's just like the show must go on.
How have those experiences been?
When you're sick and you got the flu and you're like seeing little green men and they're dancing all around the drums and the room is spinning.
It wasn't an acid hit. You're just
gotta
not feeling good.
You just gotta like, dude, you could do it. So you're like kind of leaning on your higher power. I have a lot of prayers that I say before I go out there. I like say, God, please let there be no problems with any of my plumbing, and please let me rely on these skills and natural abilities that you gave me, that I recognized and I honed over the course of my life. Let me lean on these things tonight to lift up the guys in my band, to lift up these songs, and to just show these people one heck of a good time. So I have my little mantras that I do before the show, and it definitely involves, some my higher power.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Is that in every show ritual?
Every show.
Performance?
And somehow, I don't know, my band has noticed that I kind of have the gift of gab, and I can think on my feet pretty well. So I've been given this responsibility of being the guy that does like a pre-show toast every night.
Okay.
So like 10 minutes before we go on, we're all red Solo cups, and I have to come up with something that's memorable and poignant, and maybe involves where we are in human history and what city we're in and the vibe and the mood of the band, something that's humorous. And so it's a lot of responsibility, but I've took a couple of improv comedy classes, and it's like walking the tightrope. You know, you go out on stage, you have no idea what you're going to do, and you do it.
Yeah.
So it's a fun responsibility, and hopefully you know, I'm the
Sounds like
motivator in the band. You know,
I was gonna say, it sounds like you hold multiple hats and roles.
it's a lot of responsibility, man. I'm tired. That's why I
And
got
then 25,000
got the
people on a
coffee,
stage,
man.
and he's like, "Let's go."
Yeah.
You've traveled all around. You've done all types of different performances. I'm assuming collaborations. I mean, you are the backstage. You're in the back rooms. Like, can you share something that's just been really cool, or a moment in your life where like you're like, wow, this is a core memory in my brain.
Well, man, there's so many relationships, so many experiences that came as a result of my relationship with, say, Jason Aldean and his great management company, and the orbit that he flies in. His producer has always championed us, you know, like I've recorded well over 100 songs with him, and then as a result of taking the music to the people, I've been able to back up, you know, other people like Bob Seger and your Bryan Adams and your Ludacris's, and you know, Chris Cornell, you know, God rest his soul, was on a television show with us, and you know. Yeah, you just run into this greatness, you know, and it's fun to study successful people, and for the most part, truly successful people, they are approachable, they are kind, they Bob Seger comes in, knows everybody's name in the band, firm handshake. I love your guys' music, and he's just, you know, this is one of those guys that's got a lot of zeros. Like he's a multi-billionaire, you know what I mean? And he's just puts his pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah.
You know, these people, I tell my students, look, it never gets starstruck. You have to have, when you have to respect the moment and exceed expectations for that person. But just remember that these celebrities, they poop, they pay taxes, and they have to put their pants on. They're just like us. You know, they just have achieved this high level of success. And hey, you're a cog in the wheel that day. If I'm behind the drums that day, and my job is to back up Bryan Adams or Ludacris, or, you know, we're on an award show and Brooks and Dunn come in, it's like, I got to know that material better than anybody on the stage. I've got to lead and follow at the same time, and I have to be in that moment and be committed to that moment. And it kind of speaks to this crash philosophy that I speak on. You know, some people like acronyms, some people hate them. I love them. Crash, commitment, relationships, attitude, skill, and hunger. It's what I'm going to be talking about at the event, and it starts with that commitment, you know, showing up, being committed to that moment, knowing the material better than anyone on the stage, being able to execute in that moment, honoring the relationships. And when you meet somebody in your life and you're like, wow, that was profound, I wonder if I can keep in touch with Bryan Adams. Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So cultivating lifelong, hopefully sincere, lifelong relationships, and then realizing how important attitude is. And that's why every motivational speaker, I mean, I'm sure so many of your speakers at the event are going to mention the word attitude. It's unavoidable. It's like 99% of our life. And we know that enthusiasm is contagious. And like I said, I wield that like a sword. Skills, cultivating the skills that we need to be successful in our chosen field, and never resting on our laurels, kind of like almost being like a doctor, committing to self-improvement, continuing education throughout the chapters of our life, and then having that hunger that burns in our belly to be successful. You know, I'm tapping into some sort of like inner child. That's also kind of what enthusiasm is. It's like tapping into this inner childlike energy and never losing that in our life. Of course, you got to grow up. You got to be adult enough to pay your taxes and do all the things, you know. If the roof is leaking, all right, honey, we got to fix these things. You know what I mean? But when I get on the drums, I'm a child. I'm like a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And I think that it keeps me young, you know. And if I'm young in my mind and my body, that means that I have more time to impact people and change lives.
I like it.
Yeah.
Man, mic drop moment right there.
Yeah.
All those travels, all those shows, relationships, how do you hold it all together? I mean, you're moving, man. You're doing things.
Yeah.
you're running and gunning. Like,
I wish I had somebody to help run Redmond Industries. You know, it sounds like it would be something like, you know, on the top of the Batman building and would require like a retinal scan to get into my office. And it's like, I do everything myself. I mean, sometimes there's some agents, you know, especially in the speaking world. I don't know if a lot of people know, but that whole industry is kind of run by bureaus, you know, and I'm represented on multiple bureaus. And, you know, someone could go and they can look and they go, oh, I can get that X president that plays the saxophone, and he's this one price point, but I can get Rich Redmond for a whole lot cheaper, and he plays drums. So that whole thing kind of runs on bureaus. And then I have relationships with people, you know, at colleges and the big box music stores and mom and pop drum shops and around the country, so I can do events there. But for the most part, it's me just kind of rolling up my sleeves, looking at a blank calendar of just white space on a 365 and going, how can I really make this look like spilt coffee? So like I'm doing something every day, impacting someone, changing people's lives, affecting people in a positive way through education, through performance, through my talents. And so that's what I do at the beginning of the year. I'm lucky enough that, you know, 25 years with Jason Aldean, I get a PDF at the beginning of the year that says, these are all the places. They got the cigar. These are all the places you're going to be, kid. You know, and I know a year ahead of time. Oh, my God. So if I have to be in Cleveland on a Thursday, that means I probably need to get on the bus at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Yeah. But I'm not just going to throw Wednesday away. Wednesday, I could fit in 2 recording sessions on Music Row. I could teach at my studio. I could teach lessons all day. I could work on my 4th book. I could audition for the occasional acting role if things will ever work out where it's like, oh, my God, I can actually do the audition. They like me. Chemistry read, fitting. Oh, I can't actually make the shoot date. You know, that has been one of the most difficult things is when you do a lot of creative things is one of the things always suffers. But it's always there, kind of nagging me. It's like, hey, don't forget about this skill set. Maybe you should take another cold reading class, keep it fresh. Yeah. You know, because I still want to do that.
You know, want to live in that inner child again, right? And it sounds like that's part of it, right? Like, hey, let's go do this.
Let's be creative. Fun. I got a chance to be creative every day. The more things you can. Some people are just like, look, I just play the drums on. I could just easily say, look, this is my job. It covers my bills. I have a nice lifestyle. If my friend wants sushi, we're going to get sushi. It's great. That's success. But I have all these other skill sets, and it's like, well, why do you know? I'm a high energy person. Let's go make an impact on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Let's go teach. Let's record. Let's be creative.
Where do you think that drive comes from?
My mom has insane energy. Like she's pushing late 70s. My dad's 79. My mom's 76, and they are active. My dad plays golf 4 days a week. He's got 4 hole-in-ones in his career. My mom is in the, you know, pottery club and the shelling club and the line dancing club. And then for a while she was working out 3 hours a day. She's like, I do my body pump, and then I do my Pilates, and then I do body combat, and then on my off days I like cycle 20. My mom is like she's a cancer survivor. She just goes. Yeah. You know, and so I get that kind of like energy from her, and then kind of like more of like my pragmatism from my dad. He was an accountant, very methodical. Yep. So I have my mom's kind of like, you know, hippie, just craziness, and then my dad's like, now son, make sure that you're organized and you have a calendar and you have a backup plan, and then you're going to college. Your mother and I will pay for it, but you better get straight A's, and like, you know what I mean, that kind of a thing. But and then together they're like, peanut butter and chocolate.
I was gonna say it gives you that balance.
Yeah, they're great, and to be a person of my a person at my age in my season of life to have both my parents is such a gift.
It's a gift, yeah. And it sounds like you have gratitude towards that, and awareness and appreciation towards it, right?
Yeah,
sometimes we go too fast in life, and we don't prioritize, or we're. You know, you talked about success earlier of like having to do whatever and eat sushi with your friend. We all define success differently, and sometimes parents don't make it into that equation, which is tough. And
sometimes people have to like their parents are like be a doctor or a lawyer, and then the child is like, well, I'm not going to do that. That's not my path. I'll show you, and they use that as fuel for motivation. Kind of happened with my grandmother, God rest her soul, Ida Paradiso. She was like, I was working so hard for so many years to bring my career to fruition, and things were starting to happen for me. I had just done the Donnie and Marie show with Susan Ashton. We flew out to Los Angeles, filmed the show. I was like, oh my God, I'm in Hollywood, and there's a set of drums, and I'm going to be in TV. You're going to see me. Graham, did you see me? And then we went and we did Austin City Limits for like a full hour. Did you see me? And all. She's like, this is great, but when are you going to get a real job? But generationally, people from her generation did not do that. It was more pragmatic. It was like, a musician, a creative. No, what are you going to do? How are you going to retire? Yeah. So I kind of use that as a fuel.
There's no like safety or comfort in that zone, but that's your zone of genius. I mean, look what you've done, man.
I used it as fuel. I was like, I'll show you, Graham. But it was polite. It was polite. I'll show you. But my parents could have said, no, you need to be a da 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 da. But they were the ones that got me the drum lessons and bought me the first drum set. And my dad would drive me around to nightclubs and get me in so I could get experience, get those tens of thousands of hours of experience. And before I could even get in the nightclub, he was the one doing that. And of course, parenthood, God, my dad was, wearing Kmart jeans while we were walking around with our Jordashes. You know what I mean? It was sacrifice. You learn about sacrifice and things like that,
Totally. Yeah. It's interesting the level of impact your parents have on you, right? And you can play the victim or the victor, right? You can live a life where you point the finger or you look inward. And I think it's so common that that's such a positive influence or a negative influence. And I think for me, like, that was negative, right? That's why I choose the word impact, because impact was a negative perception for me for a long time. And I wanted to flip the script and, build a life that I controlled around positive influence, positive impact. Yeah. But I also think that support from your parents, no matter what happens, of saying, hey, go do that or take that risk, or, my parents had their issues and their problems, and but they were always telling me, hey, you got this, right? It was like a level of confidence that you didn't have when you needed it most. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about human connection in general, and why we're talking, and why we have a good relationship, and why you're speaking, and all these things. Like, you were talking about creating memorable experiences, and all these things lead to that human connection. Yeah. You're on a stage and there's 25,000 people in front of you. Yeah, that's not a one-on-one conversation, but because you created that experience, that memory, there is a connection there, right? And in your case, it's flowing through their veins and through their ears, and that emotion, and their buddy to the left and to the right. And I think it's so magical, and I'm just excited about the conference coming up, because it's so different and unique around the fact that we've got artists, we've got professional sports players, we've got speakers, top salespeople, people who have exited businesses from multi-millions, people who are just growing rapidly and scaling, and people who are coming off of a failure or a pivot or a transformation. And it's such a wide range of folks that are bringing just the importance around leadership, right? Like, in all those elements and all those things, like when you were talking about leadership and how you're the CEO and you do the speech before and the toast, like, dude, that's leadership, and it's at its highest level, right? Like, you're the glue. You bring the synergy, the enthusiasm, the energy. Yeah. Where's Rich? If Rich isn't here, what happens now? And
the main thing is that everybody you have coming in is highly successful and is operating at a high level. They're constantly and consistently exceeding expectations that others have of them and the expectations they have of themselves. Yes. And so when you get a group of high-functioning individuals like that together, everybody's just kibitzing and, just sharing insights and just soaking up at each other's stuff just by proximity, the proximity effect. It's going to be terribly exciting to, do the night before mix and mingle, and then, the 50 minutes on stage together. I just tell everybody, I'm just literally, it's like the scene from Empire Strikes Back where where Han cuts open the ton and then sticks, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to eviscerate myself and give people everything I possibly can. I'm going to milk that 50 minutes. and leave them, you know, the old show business mantra, leave them wanting more, you know, and yeah, it's going to be a great day, man.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. All right, last question. I know you're a busy guy, and I'm grateful for you spending time today with
Oh,
us.
this is cool. Look at this set, man. I feel like I'm on Access Hollywood.
What, when did you realize, like, holy shit, man, like, I'm doing it? Like, I really want to get in your brain around the fact, because, like, dude, you've had such massive success. Like, Rich isn't, he's the most humble guy. Like how he's talked about himself, what he shared with this episode, like, he's very humble, but the reality is like, dude, you've been around, like, freaking rock stars. You are a rock star. Like,
I just worked really hard to just try to get myself behind a set of drums every day. That's my happy place. So running my business is working through relationships and through networking and, God forbid, self-promotion, to find myself behind a set of drums every day, because that's where I know I have the most impact, right? So how did I know I was doing it? I always knew, like, even was in school, I'm an overeducated rock drummer. I have my master's degree from the University of North Texas, which is this amazing famed university where I studied jazz. And I was like, I loved it, and I really immersed myself in it. Did I think I was going to, like, move to Europe or Japan to become a full-time jazz musician? No. But I knew that at the time I was like, oh my God, I'm setting myself up for success. And then being willing to just put everything I own into a truck and give my band in Dallas 2 weeks notice and move to Nashville. I didn't know anyone. Started calling people in the yellow pages. Hi, my name's Rich Redmond. I just moved to Nashville. I can read music. I have reliable transportation. I own a tuxedo. Can you use me? Cold calls. Called everybody in the musicians union book, just reaching out to people, because I know that people are the gateway to success. They are the gatekeepers. So the more people you know, the better. The more people that know you, the better. Yeah. And hopefully they have great things to say. Because our reputation is everything, and it precedes us.
So you just packed your shit, drove to Nashville,
and started crashing parties,
and was just like, man, I'm going to put myself in front of the people, in front of the rooms, and just grinding.
And
I mean, like, let's be realistic. That's not easy to just come into a new territory without relationships or backup plans.
You have to have confidence in your ability. Like, I knew what I was bringing to the table, but then the next challenge was, no one cares. And I am going to just have to prove myself one gig at a time. So saying yes to every opportunity that came along, and then keeping my chin up and just moving forward, and keeping that chest out and going from one failure to the next. And the doors that were slammed in my face, and there was the roadblocks and people. The word no was music to my ears. I was like, all right, I'll show you. I'm not for you right now. But a lot of people that said no to me 27 years ago, now I'm on speed dial. But I had to prove myself. And sometimes you have to prove yourself and have 10 people corroborate your story. Yeah. It takes time. So patience is paramount. But I always knew, it's like, hey, man, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I would love to have been a rock star at 22. I wanted to play the Hollywood Bowl and Madison Square Garden and the Gorge and Red Rocks at 22. But I did those when I was 42. Yeah. And that's a long time to have to stay on the tracks, man, and try to stay positive and not lose enthusiasm. But yeah, you know, I was like, I'm in it. I'm in this game. And some people put time limits on things, like, hey, I'm going to give myself 2 years to see if I could quit my day job and do what I want to do and be part of the fabric of Nashville. That might not be it. You might need 2 years and 2 days. You might need 5 years. You might need 10 years. I was just committed to, no matter what, I am going to make this happen. I just needed to meet my Bono. I needed to meet my Sting. I needed to meet my John Fogerty. I needed to meet my Billy Joel. And that came in the form of a very young, hungry entertainer named Jason Aldean. And because of our relationship and seeing the commitment, seeing the enthusiasm, seeing the drive there, you know, we lifted each other up, and it became this beautiful, and then the whole band, this amazing symbiotic relationship that we were able to take the music to the people, you know, and it was slow. It was not overnight. It was just, man, we used to do 225 shows a year. So when the ball started rolling with Jason,
225 shows a year.
yeah, and then it became 200, and then 180, and then 160, and then 125, and then for 8 years we did 80 shows a year. Then for a couple years we did 60. Now he's on this kind of trajectory to be like the next McGraw or Chesney, where you do 30 shows a year, kind of a thing. He's kind of like
Huge.
heading in that direction. So, man, I'm massively grateful. And yeah, when that train started rolling down the tracks, and we went from opening up for everybody in country music to slowly but surely like headlining half basketball arenas, and then it's just a process. Like Taylor Swift was,
Yeah.
it seemed like overnight, and Jason was just like the little engine that could,
Which is a majority of how that works.
that's how
right?
that's
Like,
really how life works.
99.9% is
Yeah.
that gradual get better, keep going, keep growing.
Yeah.
Where, Swift was, but that's not everybody.
No.
So to bank on that 0.01%,
Yeah.
which we often compare ourselves to, we tie outcomes to,
Yeah.
we put timelines on things.
Yeah.
You said you're a 4-time author. I was like, I got to write a book this year, and it's got to be done before the conference. And man, a few months ago, I was like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. And
Maybe by the end of the year is a good goal.
Yeah.
Or by this time next year.
But the cool thing about it was, I've got a TED Talk coming up the day after the conference. So
Nice.
it's okay to focus on that and then come back to it, right? And but there was this pressure, this anxiety, this stress, and I'm like, man, I'm not in alignment. I'm not congruent with who I'm being.
Yeah.
Let's just push this over. That doesn't mean I'm never going to do it. It just means there's a time and a place, and I think for everything, whether it's your next business, your next idea, a relationship, a sale, an offer, all of it, right?
Yeah.
It's got to fit that level of the right time, the right place.
You got to pimp your TED Talk. Where is it?
Old Hickory, so right here locally.
Oh, great.
Yeah. It's going to be around human connection and how to follow your dreams.
That's amazing. So somewhere between 8 and 12 minutes, right?
Yep. So this one can go up to 18.
Wow.
But mine will probably be around 12 to 14.
Nice.
Yeah.
And have you just been practicing it in the mirror every day?
Yeah. So this.
Because it's memory, right?
This week.
100% memory, no slides, no prompter.
You can do a slide. You can do a prompt. I actually have a prompt. It's pretty polarizing. So
you're saying that there's a small teleprompter where you can slide to like bullet points?
No, so you can put up like a presentation and reference it, but there's no teleprompter. So yeah, it's all memory.
Gotcha.
Which I don't operate that way. So I practice and I have a core philosophy and a framework, but like if you put Jim in this box of it needs to be every word and this is it, dude, I'm not gonna show up and show out. So it's really interesting because everybody says memorize it to the T.
Yikes.
But my friend who spoke at our conference last year, she's got 12 million views on hers, and she changed it 3 times the night before. Now, when I say change, I don't mean the idea. I don't mean the overall arching concept, but like the navigation maybe of stories, where to put the facts, things like that. So I'm going to memorize it, but I'm going to beat Jim Morris that day. And if Jim Morris shows up and crushes it, which I believe he will, that's going to be amazing. And if Jim Morris makes some mistakes on that stage, then that's the Jim Morris that showed up that day. So I'm feeling good about it. I've got a lot of support, a lot of folks. So many people are actually coming to that to support me the day after the conference. So it's been really cool to be like, hey, I just bought a ticket to your conference. Also, man, I'm gonna come see you and stay an extra day, and I got a ticket to the TEDx talk.
I would go too if I didn't have to be somewhere on the very next day. That's our thing. We're like, I'm coming home from the road, doing the conference, and then the next morning,
you're going back out, right? Yeah.
I'm so glad everything worked out, like schedule wise, because my schedule is like Tetris, and things are very liquid, and they move around a lot, and anything can happen last minute. So I'm so happy that it's happening. That's great. But I'm excited for you. I actually wrote a TED Talk in COVID. I got a TEDx coach, and we pretty much kind of wrote out all the big bullet points, and so it's just a matter of like threading and fleshing and memorizing, and then also being available to do any of the TEDx events. But maybe I'll try to start because I had a friend, Adam Gust, who's like he's like a medical researcher drummer. We went to college together, but he's really like leaning into scientific why we do things and how our body moves and heavy stuff. And he did one, and he says, this is how you do it. You know, you go to their website, and there's this paperwork you fill out, and by filling out that paperwork, it helps you really kind of like hone in on things.
Yep.
And then hopefully you'll get booked, and then you just have to memorize.
Yeah, yeah. It's been really cool, and Amanda Banks is the host. She's here locally, and she's just awesome, and has been very helpful through the process. So, you know, as you know, it's just drastically different than most talks or conversations. So, you know, going into it, I'm like, okay, cool, I got this, and that, and a lot of people are worried about the video, and you're talking to the camera, not necessarily the people in the room, and I'm like, man, all that I'm good with, right? But where I've struggled and now have came to a place of triumph, in my opinion, and you'll know and have a response to that when it airs, but was really cool to understand, okay, hey, I'm trying to squeeze in all these ideas into this one talk, but I need to simplify. And yes, there may be 4 things that push this point, but what's the maximum 1 or 2 based on how much time I have and based on how much I want to really put emphasis and perspective around that critical component. So it's been really interesting to kind of write it, shrink it, rip it, add it, remove it.
Yeah.
I've changed the title 64 times. Like, I probably am going to change it again. We have to resubmit some stuff this week. So I'm excited, man.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It's awesome.
Well, Rich Redmond, man, thanks for being here today, brother.
Yeah, there's the camera. So is that what they say? To play to the camera and not the crowd?
Yes, because on the TEDx is people aren't in the room, and a majority of those people see it on YouTube.
No one's in the room?
So there is, but like there could be 30, 40, 50, 60 people. People are going in and out. But you're really shooting it almost like the Grammys, right? Like the Grammys, if you've been, I mean, you've been, obviously. But like, I didn't know that. When I went, I'm like, and it's all predicated to the TV and the shots and the AV and the camera, and that's similar to TED because that's where the most exposure will be.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool to kind of wrap my head around all of it. Yeah.
That's on the to-do list, man. God, thanks for inspiring me, man. That's keeping me inspired on that. I got to do it.
We'll have to connect after, man. I can tell you all about the journey. And
yeah, congrats, man.
Thank you, brother. Well, thanks for joining us today, the Impact Effect Podcast. Excited to have Rich Redmond in the house. And if you haven't grabbed your ticket to Impact Effect 24 yet, we'll see you in September. Thanks for being here.